Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, Mavericks, to the Maverick News channel. We have a stacked program for you tonight. Huge positive announcement for Canada with Airbus securing a major contract. Of course, we have yesterday's negative news with Honda pulling out of that $15 billion EV plant deal. And we have some details on that, including how much money the government has involved. And we're also going to dig into the separatists running for cover tonight in the face of revelations from mainstream media that we've been telling you about really in a serious way, like for the past month, and really in another way over the past at least 3 years. They're catching up, but the separatists are deny, claiming that it's a smear campaign, when in fact they're the ones smearing the entire country. So we'll dig into that tonight as well. And the big story, which we're actually going to save until we kind of get through these other top stories of the day, is this ongoing controversy surrounding the AI data center, this hypercenter, this massive facility down in Utah, the size of 40 football fields, 42 square miles in size. This is Kevin O'Leary's massive AI data center project, which we brought news to you about last night, approved by the local council down there. But we have somebody who's coming on tonight from the Center for Biological Diversity who is going to tell us how local residents really didn't have an opportunity to provide any input and no meaningful public consultation at all. And yet this whole project is being rammed through, keeping in mind that it is being located right next to military property down there in Salt Lake. So we have all of that, a loaded program, and we're even going to tell you about Kevin O'Leary's vampire-like habits. Oh yes, it's true, because around here we pursue the truth. We do not lie. We are dedicated to getting you closer to the truth. And tonight, I can tell you this, while Kevin O'Leary is focused on AI and digital data, we are, folks. We are all 100% real around here. We are absolutely organic. We are radioactive, though, and we are live. We'll be right back on the other side of this.
We are the Mavericks. Welcome to the Matrix, baby. Hope you like the view. We are the Mavericks. The world is watching. We are the Mavericks.
Oh, I know you want to hear about those wars. We'll get to those as well, but we're on a roller coaster ride, an economic roller coaster ride in this country as Trump's tariff war takes its toll on Canada. Yesterday, of course, bad news on the economic front as Honda announced that it is pulling out of its $15 billion plan for an EV facility in Ontario and Alliston. We'll come back to that. But on the positive side, Mark Carney announcing today that Airbus Canada has signed a deal to supply AirAsia with a massive order of 150 of its Canadian-made A220 jets. It's a multi-billion-dollar coup of sorts for Quebec's aviation industry. So this is an agreement that involves the low-cost Malaysian airline, and it marks the single largest single firm order for these planes, which are assembled in Montreal, in Mirabel. And it means a lot of jobs, big money. And it comes just in time, I think, for Carney, who is taking it on the chin today, in part because of Honda's announcement yesterday. That announcement, I should point out, from yesterday really was made for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is Trump's tariffs, which the company has indicated have created an uncertain market ahead. And with billions of dollars in play, they're being careful with their pennies. Or, well, no, maybe not pennies. They're obsolete, shows my age, but with their dimes and nickels. Here's Carney coming in to talk about the $15 billion problem.
There's some good news in Mirabel. I got it today later.
What's that, sorry?
Some good news in Mirabel later today. I don't want to scoop you, but there's
This was before the
auto
announcement
sector.
for Airbus.
Yeah, we've still got, obviously there's challenges with the U.S. tariffs, unjustified tariffs in the auto sector. We continue to work with companies in the sector, helping them reposition, reinvest, supporting workers there. We'll continue to do what's necessary, including getting the right deal that's in Canada's interest.
You worried about Honda?
Okay. So Pierre Poilievre also took time today to address the issue. Where'd you go, Pierre? We have him. We have him. We have him here somewhere. Did we lose him? No. We're just not looking at the right tab. Here we go. We've got Pierre. All right, here's your Conservative Party leader calling out the Prime Minister on the automotive file tonight.
Étrangère. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Obviously, we're all terribly saddened by the news of Honda's cancellation of $15 billion of automotive production in Ontario. This follows on the collapse of auto production under this Liberal government. It has fallen by 50% since the Liberals took office. Most of that collapse happened before the tariffs even took place, but under the leadership of then Liberal Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne. What we're seeing from Mark Carney is not a plan, but an illusion. He claims that we're going to replace 83% of our automotive sales to the U.S. by making electric vehicles that people don't want to buy, that we don't make, and selling them into markets where we don't sell and where they're already being purchased from elsewhere at half the price. To call it an illusion would be generous. It's more like a Liberal hallucination. What we need is a real plan. Mark Carney, by the way, has had a year. He said he was going to save automotive jobs. He said he would have a deal a year ago. And in that time, what has he done? He's delivered even more job losses, even higher costs, and even more taxes. So we have a real plan. Conservative plan is to bring back the auto pact, a zero tariff auto pact that requires makers make one car in Canada for every car they sell in Canada. And to offer for the Americans to have the same, that would bring production back to both of our countries, extremely attractive for both, and that's why we believe the Americans would sign on. Let's get rid of the GST for all Canadian-made automobiles, and let's end the $2.3 billion Liberal subsidy for foreign-made electric vehicles. Why are we using Canadian tax dollars to incentivize consumers to buy vehicles we don't even make in Canada, thus shipping our jobs and money abroad? Bring that money home. We have a real plan. It's time for action, and that's what Conservatives are pushing. Any questions?
Mr. Poilievre, today the Privacy Commissioner found that OpenAI didn't follow Canadian privacy laws when it trained ChatGPT. Any comment on that?
Yes, these tech giants need to follow our laws and respect the privacy of the Canadian people so that our citizens can be assured that when they use these tools that they will not face breaches to their private information.
Should Canada be looking at its privacy legislation to adapt it to this new age with AI?
Sure. I think we have to always look at privacy laws to make sure they're matched with the times. Excellent. Wow, what a group over here. All right, no more questions? All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay, so just a couple of comments. First of all, it's easy for him to sit there and say that he wants to go back to the auto-packed days. For every vehicle sold in Canada, one has to be produced here. Trump has indicated he's not interested in anything like that. The auto-pact predates the first NAFTA deal and then CUSMA afterward, which refined what we had with the auto-pact, which was in place prior to those trade deals. He can say that, but Trump has said that he just wants the auto plants, all of them, in the U.S. So that's the position of the Trump administration. He can say these things and make it sound like he's just going to make it happen, but you have to get the U.S. negotiators to buy into that. And right now, we're at a stalemate on that file. So we shall see. Then also the data security. Yeah, OpenAI, there's a big issue there, but there's also this huge issue with the data breach that is very apparent out in Western Canada with the separatist movement making use of the electors list inappropriately, probably illegally, exposing the personal information, including voter IDs, for almost 3 million Albertans. I've not asked about that specifically, but that's certainly a major issue. And then he says that these tech giants need to follow Canadian laws. We're going to show you why. Because of Kevin O'Leary's AI data center, not just the one in Utah, but he's going to build this other one out in Alberta, right? We mentioned that, I think, last night. Huge facility out there too. He's been at this for a while. Strangely, to me, this whole story has been largely flying under the radar. Nobody really talking about it that much. And yet I think it is, well, tonight, I'm telling you, it is the biggest story right here. We're not leading with it because I want to take time to elaborate on it, to give you some real depth and put some meat on the bones of this one for you tonight. It's important, because we are moving at a rapid pace toward a really uncertain and unstable, unpredictable future with AI, drones, massive consumption of energy, off the scales energy consumption. We'll put it into perspective for you, give you some scale, and it's going to make your eyes just it's going to open them up. So stay with me. We're going to come back on the other side. We'll start digging into all of that stuff when we come back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, before we move on to the next story, last night I told you I didn't know how much money the federal government might have wrapped up in that Honda plant. The good news is we're here, and I think this is good news. This is the first we're getting word on this, but the good news appears to be that no tax money was actually handed over to Honda, and so it doesn't look like Canadian taxpayers will be on the hook for anything with this. It's just a project that isn't moving forward for now.
The $2.5 billion that he promised to Honda.
This is Beck in
Can the
Ontario.
Premier tell us what, if any, strings were attached to the $2.5 billion that he promised to Honda for that project?
Minister of Economic Development.
This is
Thank
provincial.
thank you, Speaker. The short answer is there's no money that has been released to Honda whatsoever, period.
Can the Premier tell us?
So $2.5 billion pledged from the Ontario government. Hearing tonight that none of that money was released. So breathe a sigh of relief on that one. That's a chunk of change. Lost investment opportunity, at least for now. But don't never say never. We may recover in some way. Over time. Give it time. Canadians don't give up. So, speaking of data centers and things like that, we still have this ongoing controversy out in Alberta with the separatists, the Centurion Project, using that new software to utilize the electors list, which allegedly was provided by the Republican Party of Alberta, because political parties are given access to the electors list so they can send information out to voters during election campaigns. But if you're not a party, a provincial registered political party, you are not supposed to have that list. The allegation is that the Republican Party gave it to the Centurion Project, which is one of several separatist groups out in Alberta. They used it, they published it online, put it into this website so that they could use a sophisticated software program allowing volunteers to use the data to target people in their neighborhoods, their communities, with a separatist pitch so that they would sign the petition to trigger the referendum. Well, today, the Premier put on the hot seat. Danielle Smith asked some pointed questions from the leader of the provincial NDP, Naheed Nenshi. I've got it here. Hang on. Let's get him queued up. And let the exchange begin.
I don't remember calling anybody's name yet, but I heard lots of voices. Now let's hear the leader of the official.
The Premier always says, I didn't know. She didn't know she couldn't let Crown prosecutors drop charges against her friends. She didn't know that she runs AHS in its procurement processes. She didn't know that Sam Raish was in the skybox with her. She didn't know that her staff directed the purchase of Turkish Tylenol over AHS objections, and now she didn't know that her staff members saw Jason Kenney's personal information be doxed. So, what else does the Premier not know, and why does her staff always keep her in the dark? Premier just didn't know. She didn't even know what's going on in her own office. She didn't know that her chief of staff insulted a journalist on Twitter. She didn't know that her executive director regularly goes after people who don't share Judeo-Christian values. She didn't know that Happy Man gave up the government's game by sharing the independent maps, and showing they came from government sources. She didn't know that Arundeep Sandhu regularly meets with David Parker. She just doesn't know. So if our Premier doesn't know what's going on in her own office and in her own government, who's running Alberta?
Order.
Mr. Speaker, in our party, we understand.
You know, when you ask the question, especially, you should probably wait to hear the answer. Press 35, go ahead.
In our party, we understand how precious the information is from the Elections Alberta database. In our party, there is only one person who has access to it. Anyone else who accesses it for door knocking has to have it recorded. And why is that? Because there's 1 year in jail or a $100,000 fine for breaching that act. Our members, our staff, our members of our party know how serious this is. This is why it was important for Elections Alberta to find out who gave the list out. It was not this party, it was another party, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Well, it's a delicate situation and convenient for the core separatist movement out there that the Centurion Project is taking the heat on this, even though they all know each other. They're all working together. David Parker knows the people at the APP. Jeffrey Rath knows they're all together, but they have these separate organizations set up, and I have to wonder why this was done. These are not stupid people. They know what the rules are. Why was this done this way? It's would you think it's just carelessness? Are they really that stupid? I doubt it. There's something more in play here. But we'll have to let it play out as the investigation unfolds. And there is an ongoing investigation. More, I think, supposed to come out maybe tomorrow on that. So we'll update you as time permits. Also tonight, mainstream media, Global and CBC tonight, picking up on a story that we've been covering for a long time. We highlighted it again because there was this university study that came out about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, saying that there is foreign interference, foreign influence online directed at Canada and the separatist movement. When I say directed, I mean it's boosting the movement. Today, actually, I think it was yesterday, I became aware of it overnight. CBC highlighted another report that has just come out saying the exact same, well, sort of the same thing, except their report says that it's people who are setting up these sort of fake channels using content that is boosting the Alberta separatist movement, but they're not doing it for political reasons. They're only doing it for profit. They took some time. It was a very good report, and they connected dots. They traced it all back. They found out where the source of all this is, and then they connected that over to some of the people that were recruited and paid to put these channels together, and a lot of it is also generated with AI. I showed you some of those channels when I talked about it about 2 weeks ago. CBC saying that these are just, well, they're being told by the person and or company that is at the root of all of this, that they don't do it for political reasons. They're just able to generate a lot of clicks, a lot of traffic with it, because it's so emotionally charged, and they're able to boost it. And then they network these things back and forth together using bots to boost the numbers and make them go up, and then they collect a lot of revenue from YouTube. That's specifically fake YouTube influencers. Some real people paid as little as $60 a video to sit there and spew this stuff, but they're all living in the U.S. Strange thing, though, they're saying they're not doing it for political reasons, but the thing is, I can't say for sure, but how do you know they're telling you the truth? You don't. That's just a claim that they're making. So CBC highlighted that, I think, for legal reasons, because if they say otherwise, maybe there's some legal liability that is there. Global Today also running a story saying that with a professor who is pointing to evidence, I guess, that he has, saying that there is Russian influence in play here. And then as I'm scrolling, of course, the separatists, the pro-separatists, including the media influencers who are supporting all of it, are posting online like crazy tonight saying, oh, it's just a smear campaign, it's not true, they think that Albertans can't think for themselves. Of course there's no foreign influence in anything going on out here. They're trying to sanitize it all. They don't want anybody to know exactly what we all know, that of course there's foreign influence. It's to be expected at this point, and of course it's at a fever pitch. There's foreign influence from many governments. There always is, but it's amplified and focused very much on the separatist movement. I've told you that. I know it's true. I know that it's true. And if anybody knows that something like that would be true, it would probably be me. So I'm telling you, it's true. But it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that you have U.S. influencers influencing things up here. And of course that's happening. You think Joe Rogan doesn't influence things here? You think Tucker Carlson doesn't influence things here? You think that there are not like channels specifically set up from the U.S. side to influence things up here, as Trump keeps talking about making Canada the 51st state? Of course they're trying to influence things up here. You think the Russians aren't trying to influence things? Of course they are. They don't want Canada to stay together. They want to disrupt things because Canada supports Ukraine. And they're doing everything they can. If they can't break up the country or help that process along, then they're certainly trying to influence public opinion, to pull public opinion away from support for Ukraine, because if they can reduce or eliminate financial support for that, then it makes it a whole lot easier for the Russians to win tonight over in Ukraine. I'm just highlighting this for you, because if you're looking at influencers out there saying, oh no, that's not true, there's none of that going on, well, duh, of course it's going on. China's involved too. They're influencing things all the time. And there are other countries that do it as well, but those are the big ones. Iran also. They influence things over here. They have a very powerful and sophisticated information warfare department. Make no mistake. In fact, here, I'll run this from Global News. Well, I don't really need to. I've said enough about it. We've highlighted it enough. And I was way, way, way ahead of the curve. Like massively ahead of the curve on all of this stuff. I told you about it 2 weeks ago. I told you about it 3 freaking years ago. And we keep coming back to the story because it's obviously happening. Duh. It goes on in the States. It goes on everywhere. We did that whole program on all of that with Kevin Michelizzi talking about foreign influence and how it works. And I've got more. Maybe we'll come back to it another night. But I'll tell you right now, if you see people out there trying to tell you, oh, that doesn't go on, there's none of that going on out here, you really better start to question what the hell they're saying to you. It's just so freaking obvious. Of course, foreign governments are trying to influence political opinion in this country. Ridiculous. Okay, enough of Daniel Smith and enough of that. Are we going to pivot over now to this data center stuff? I suppose we could. We're about due for that. Okay, so this is a huge story. Well, you know what? Maybe I better just tell you first of all about what's going on in Ukraine. Because this war, now in its 5th year, of course, and heavy Russian drone and missile strikes overnight and into today have killed at least 26, maybe 27, most recent count, civilians across multiple regions in Ukraine, including Zaporizhzhia and Sumy. A Russian drone struck a kindergarten in Sumy, killing at least one person. Ukrainian officials, including the President Zelensky, have condemned the attacks as senseless, coming just days before Russia's announced unilateral ceasefire for the May 8th and 9th to mark Victory Day commemorations in Moscow. Ukraine had declared its own ceasefire starting midnight on May 5th and 6th, but Russia appears to have ignored it, launching dozens of drones and glide bombs. In response, Ukrainian forces have intensified long-range drone and missile strikes deep into Russia, hitting oil refineries, ports, including that port and the oil refinery. We saw the huge fires as a result of the explosions there. They've also hit military sites as far as 1,500 kilometers away. And I'm seeing more, political pundits and war commentators coming out over the past week saying that Ukraine is making some, serious gains on the battlefield and into Russia, and it is embarrassing for Putin at this point. So it's also getting to the point where Trump seems to be taking note to some degree of what's going on and changing his rhetoric toward Zelensky just a little bit. So that's a new development. And on the battlefield, Russian advances remain limited, costly, a lot of lives being lost. And Ukrainian defenses have been fairly successful in recent months in blunting much of Russia's spring and summer offensive, which is still underway. Now, let's just pivot over here, talk a little bit about this situation in Iran, this fragile ceasefire, which is not a ceasefire. They keep shooting at each other, and Trump yesterday saying that they launched, was it yesterday? I'm losing track of time. Yeah, yesterday was Tuesday, right? So, yes, Tuesday was they launched Project Freedom, and then Tuesday, the next day, he tacoed out on Tuesday, calling it off, saying that they got 2 vessels through, escorted. That was the goal of Project Freedom. This is after Marco Rubio declared that Operation Epic Fury had come to a conclusion, and they keep using different words and phrases to avoid accountability and the necessity to obtain congressional approval to extend the war, which they're saying isn't a war. The war is over. Operation Epic Fury is over. Now we have a ceasefire where both sides still continue to attack each other, but it's not a war. And Trump then launches Project Freedom this week. Within 24 hours, calls it off, saying he's going to extend that and pause this because they have these great talks going on with Tehran, with the Iranian regime to reach some sort of a peace deal. On Trump's word, the oil prices dipped significantly earlier today, dipped down around 90, mid 80s, I think, and then came right back up. And it's, I think tonight, still over $100 a barrel again for Brent crude, because we're not really getting the kind of confirmation from Iran that would instill confidence in these statements. So the U.S. under pressure, President Trump with this Project Freedom, saying that he warned Iran to agree to a deal soon or face renewed massive bombing. Both sides are reviewing this potential, though. It's a one-page memorandum to formally end the war. Simple, maybe. Who knows? The reports indicate both sides are reviewing this thing, and Iran's foreign minister claims elevated international standing from the conflict, while the IRGC says forces remain prepared. And Israel, of course, still staying on high alert with recent strikes reported in Lebanon. Despite earlier pauses there, the IRGC says forces remain prepared as well. So everybody's still on pins and needles. So we'll continue to monitor both of those conflicts, and they continue to send ripples globally, affecting energy markets, shipping, international diplomacy. The entire economy teetering on the edge of a global recession, if not worse. Okay, let's take a very short break. Then we're going to come back in. We're going to start to dig into this AI data center stuff. And I have our special guest lined up, DEEDA SEED from the Center for Biological Diversity. She's also a Salt Lake resident and activist who is pretty darn upset with Mr. Wonderful. Down there right now, they're calling Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Terrible. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
As a prelude to the AI data center story, I just want to circle back to something we also told you about. It's got to be 2 years ago here on the program, I think now. Time flies. About Kevin O'Leary and his affinity for blood cleansing. Oh, it's true. It's absolutely true. This is something rich people do. It's like a vacation thing. It's like a medical vacation. It takes about 3 days to do this. He gets it done in the UAE. You can also get it done, I think, in Mexico as well. Anyway, Dana White was on, I think it was Joe Rogan, talking about it. I'm going to run a clip from him explaining what it's all about, and then we're going to show you what Kevin O'Leary is doing with that. This is one of two reasons why I ran the thumbnail of Kevin O'Leary that I did last night. We had Kevin O'Leary up in a caricature of him in a vampire outfit. That's because he actually appeared. It was either, I think it was Shark Tank, might have been Dragon's Den. Anyway, he dressed up like a vampire. I think it was a Halloween episode. but he dressed up like a vampire, and then of course he does this blood cleansing thing. So I thought, well, it just fits because he really does do this. Here's Dana White explaining what it's all about.
They have this thing down in Tijuana where you go in and they literally put a fucking needle into your
in your neck.
Yeah, your what is it?
Jugular?
Your carotid, your jugular. And it's a 3-day process.
This isn't Rogan.
And
this is a radio
they literally
station.
put your blood through a machine,
is the account,
and it filters your blood, and then puts your blood back into your body. And this thing it's supposed to, first of all, it's supposed to be incredible for people who have cancer. Oh my God. And it gets all this shit out of your blood, like metals and mold and all these different toxins and all this stuff. And you know, Stephen A. Smith and Steve Harvey both told me that when they did it, like, their eyesight was better, their hearing was better, and they felt so much better.
Now I gotta go do this.
Yeah, they asked me to go with them when they were doing it. I said, I don't have time to sit down there for 3 days, but I'm going to try to do it this year. They have this thing down.
Here's O'Leary.
You start to feel really good, and it doesn't take a long time.
Every time I come, I go through an EBO process, which is where they drain almost 4.5 liters of your blood through a dialysis process, clean it, ozonate it, oxygenate it, and then inject 50 billion exosomes, which go into your bloodstream, and for the next 4 months, reduce inflation. You feel like $1 million when you walk out of there.
This is my 4th.
So that's what the rich and famous do for fun, for kicks. Real thing. So maybe it's a medical procedure coming to you. I don't know if Canada's healthcare system will cover the cost, though. Not FDA approved and not available in Canada either, but you can take a vacation, pay up front, and don't tell me there isn't a 2-tier healthcare system out there, because there certainly is. If you're rich, you don't care. You can pay for whatever you want, baby. You can fly anywhere in the world. So it's good, I guess, to have access to socialized healthcare if you're not rich, but if you ain't got it, you better be rich. And even if you do have it here, you can get it for free if you're rich, unless it's something like that. Point is, it creeps some people out. I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit about the blood cleansing thing, but I suppose in a way it's kind of like dialysis too. Jury's out as far as I'm concerned on that procedure. But you have to have the cash, and, well, Kevin O'Leary certainly has the cash, but he wants a whole lot more of it. That's why he's at the center of one of the biggest land use stories to hit northern Utah in years. The Shark Tank star and investor has been making waves down there around Salt Lake, as we told you last night, where Box Elder County commissioners gave the green light to his massive hyperscale data center project this week, despite fierce protests from hundreds of local residents who came out learning about it last minute. A project that is going to transform their community and maybe irrevocably damage the lake that is already under stress. Here's the way it looked as the protesters came, as the community listened, and the project was rammed through.
Thank you. That's once. Construction and operation. Finally, this data center will be built somewhere. It will generate jobs and economic investment. The proposed site location works well for a proposed data center. It is unused land situated away from existing homes and businesses.
I've already decided. They've decided.
Yeah, for him to start talking about
It would draw water from the site, but the water isn't being used today because it's too salty for human consumption. The closed loop design means the data center won't consume any more water than a typical office park or
no hollering.
It's near a natural gas pipeline that will allow the site to produce its own power and not put additional strain on the local grid or increase electricity prices for residents and businesses.
Selling it to us. It's Cox twisted his arm, gave him something. Yep.
The agreement we've been negotiating with MIDA ensures that it won't cost the citizens of Box Elder County anything. In fact, the county will benefit by receiving more tax revenue and infrastructure. Paid by the project developers, not the residents, even during the initial phases of the project. Plus, it will create jobs, boost our local economy, and strengthen our military for years to come. So, based on the public comments we've received, we have asked our county attorney's office to provide some additional information to address the outstanding concerns and questions. We appreciate our county's attorney's office for helping us through this process. We have also hired an outside firm to help us as well.
Okay, so this meeting went on, and it got pretty raucous, and they finally moved the people at the head table out to another location, and they finished it by Zoom, while the people in the audience remained and continued to express displeasure. However, it was approved, at least at that level. Additional approvals will be needed, though. But I want to put this in perspective for you. This thing, some are saying that this is going to be the largest data center of its type in the United States, if not the world. It is also going to have the largest natural gas energy generator in the United States, if not the world, being constructed there on site on this. It's a pad of property that is bigger than Manhattan. 42 square miles. It's huge. The amount of electricity that it will consume, the energy that it will need, it will eclipse, surpass what the entire state of Utah consumes. And this is one of two AI data centers that Kevin O'Leary is involved with. The other one up in Alberta. It's called, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, this one down in Utah, it is 40,000 acres. And it sits on the edge of this ecologically sensitive Great Salt Lake in unincorporated Box Elder County. So it's actually, I'm just looking here, and I said, what did I say, 42 square miles? Some people say it could be as big as 60 square miles. And the reason that there's some of this conflicting information is the residents there say they didn't know anything about this until about 2 weeks ago. So it's projected to generate and consume up to 9 gigawatts of power, more than twice the electricity currently used by the entire state of Utah. So Kevin O'Leary, through his firm, O'Leary Digital, says the facility will be powered entirely by a dedicated natural gas connection to the nearby Ruby pipeline, keeping it off the public grid so it doesn't drive up residential electric bills. Developers are also claiming a closed-loop water system using briny spring water that will be cleaned, recirculated, and returned to an aquifer, rather, feeding the Great Salt Lake. And they promise it will create about 2,000 jobs and help the U.S. compete in the global AI race. Now, you wonder why the separatists are so keen right now? You wonder why Trump is so focused on Alberta and maybe making Canada the 51st state, but certainly Alberta and the oil there. Look at the size of this facility. Look at the size of it. How much energy it needs. This one being run on natural gas, some of them turning to nuclear power. Small modular nuclear reactors, which is something Canada has been developing. So there's money to be made there. But O'Leary has decided that nuclear power isn't the economical choice. It makes more business sense at this point to use natural gas. So to lure the project, Utah's Military Installation Development Authority, or MIDA, which you heard referred to in the previous clip, fast-tracked approval and slashed the energy tax rate from 6% to just 0.5%. Huge tax break for the developers, the investors, for Kevin O'Leary. And then, earlier this week on Monday night, the Box Elder County Commission voted unanimously to clear the final local hurdle, even as the meeting turned chaotic and hundreds of Utahns packed the fairgrounds in Tremonton waving signs, chanting shame, and pretty darn upset, as you saw there, because they really didn't have, there was no public consultation on this heading into this meeting before this approval. It's been just rammed through. And then just hours after the vote, O'Leary then takes to social media and he posted this video, which we ran last night. And he says that some of the protesters were being bussed in and that the whole thing was fake. And he says he understands the environmental issues because he's a graduate of an environmental studies program. He claims he's the only AI developer out there right now who can claim to be a graduate of an environmental studies program. So he really does understand, but clearly he doesn't much care about what the protesters have to say because he's rocking and rolling with the project down there. And we've got these local residents and environmental groups. They're pushing back hard. They've filed hundreds of protests over water rights, vowing to fight the next steps. Some are already talking about a possible voter referendum to overturn the county's decision. Now, the project is still in its early phases and would be built over the next decade. But tonight, the battle rages on. The battle lines being drawn in Box Elder County. And we have an interview now with DEEDA SEED from the Center for Biological Diversity. Local resident, activist, very concerned about what's going on. And so while Kevin O'Leary, of course, has the luxury and the privilege of access to mainstream media and social media with a huge following, we give voice now to the other side tonight with DEEDA SEED and the local residents. This is their story, as told, shared with us tonight by DEEDA. So DEEDA, first of all, what is the major concern that the residents have down there? Is it the environmental impact?
Well, absolutely. As you may know, we're facing a crisis with our Great Salt Lake, which is literally dying before our eyes due to water diversions and climate change. And so, you know, that's an existential threat. Whether we can live here or not depends, and live a healthy life, depends on whether we can save the lake. And, you know, our elected officials have made very bold statements about how they're absolutely going to save the lake. And then along comes this proposal to build the biggest data center, the biggest gas power plant on the shores of Great Salt Lake, next to a spring and wetland area that actually state scientists have found is in deep trouble already due to water diversions. This whole thing is such an unbelievable recipe for disaster. There's so much public harm associated with it. And the very glib responses from the developers are insulting, frankly.
So how much community consultation has there been?
Zero. That's part of the reason people are so angry. So this thing got dropped on us, let's see, Saturday the 25th is when we found out about it through local reporting. Thank goodness for local journalism. And some people, like me, I track the Military Installation Development Authority, MIDA, the entity that authorized this, but not closely. And even if I, you know, so I got their agendas, I didn't notice this didn't stand out on the agenda because all it said was Stratos, with absolutely no information about what that was, you know. And they were planning to, I mean, the term railroaded from the old transcontinental railroad days comes into play here because these local elected officials were literally railroaded into agreeing to this. So, you know, here we are. So we find out about it from our newspaper, the Salt Lake Tribune, and started organizing because, well, the county commissioners had been asked to authorize the resolution the same day that MIDA approved it. It ended up, sorry, somebody I know just walked by, that they were like, no, we're going to wait until Monday. So we find out, the community finds out about this in a major way on Saturday morning. And we had, you know, between Saturday morning and 10 a.m. on Monday to ring the alarm bell. And fortunately, because of an overwhelming amount of organic grassroots concern, 180 people showed up at the commission meeting last Monday in a rainstorm to protest and bear witness. There was no public comment. And MIDA doesn't have any public comment. So
the first you heard of this was this past Saturday, and then they were dealing with it as council on Monday?
Yes. So go this way. You did, okay. Yeah, so they voted on it on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
But you
Oh,
must
no,
have
they
had
didn't vote.
you must have
No.
heard
So,
something about it prior to that. You're just talking
Wait.
about the voters. Are you telling me this is the
Right.
first you'd ever heard of it?
Correct. But also, I made a misstatement. So they did not vote on it last Monday. So then what happened was, because 180 people showed up, and they were like, wow, this is a lot of people, and the people are really upset. They delayed the vote until this Monday.
Okay.
Where they held a meeting at the Box Elder County Fairgrounds in like a basketball building, or an arena, like pretty huge building,
An auditorium. Yes.
and yes, and thousands of people showed up. That was the meeting where they took the vote, and they claimed that they were sort of claiming they had no choice, and that if they voted yes, they would at least have a seat at the table. But as someone who's read the law guiding the military, or the law that created the Military Installation Development Authority, I can tell you that they have irrevocably signed away all of their land use authority for those 40,000 acres. So they are indefinitely in a weaker position. And, they're going to get crumbs. They said they signed an interlocal agreement, which the public has not yet seen, that or approved an interlocal agreement that does things like pays for one fire truck every 10 years, things like that. But no, in no way meets the moment or like the scope and scale of this and the hugely consequential harm to our air quality, our water resources. That's an area that is known worldwide for its dark skies. Can you imagine this kind of gigantic industrial footprint?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's
the size of what, 40 football fields?
Yeah. And the audacity they have to say that, oh, don't worry, it won't impact the dark skies. It totally will. Downward lighting only does so much. It will impact everything. It will destroy that valley, those two valleys. One of them is called the Curlew Valley because it used to be home to so many curlews. There are still curlews there, but because of this dewatering situation, things for the birds, the situation for these amazing migratory birds is very grim right now. So that's the other thing. Like, it's just layer upon layer of harm.
Yeah. There must be a ton of money involved in this.
I have no idea. We have no idea. That's the other thing. Like, this is a huge question mark, which plays into legal requirements because they've represented the financing of this all in many different ways. Like, they've clearly said they don't have the financing, or they're about to get it, or they need this vote from the county commissioners will help them get it's things like that. So our take is that this is a highly speculative project that is being foisted on us without any due diligence, and certainly not, and very little public-facing information. And this is following the model of, we're going to dig the hole as fast as we can, and make this inevitable. That's their strategy. And the reality is going to be quite different for them, I believe, because almost 3,000 people, individual Utahns, paid $15 each to protest this first change application that they filed for water. And that is unprecedented, I think, in state history, that number of individual protests. And then, there were lawyers that were also in that mix because it's a formal legal proceeding. So my organization filed a formal protest. Friends of Great Salt Lake filed a formal protest. And there will be, so now there's an administrative proceeding that falls from that with very likely a hearing.
So
So
what kind of
Go ahead.
impact do you think this might end up having on just the day-to-day life of residents?
Oh, it would be terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Nothing good is coming from this for anyone other than the developers who, are trying to make money off of this. And, maybe a few people who are employed there, but I'm not sure that's going to be the greatest work environment. Data centers generally don't have lots of employees. The gas power plant, I have no idea, but just imagine, who wants to live next to, the United States' largest gas power plant in a time of a climate emergency? It's insane. Sorry. Just
Yeah.
Am I in an alternate universe? What happened? Are we ignoring all of the problems that we have? Because Kevin O'Leary, who people around here are calling Mr. Terrible, is, riding in from Canada, and he wants to make money off of our water and our air and our lake. And
Yeah.
it's not okay.
Well, that's putting a bit of a strain on international relations and diplomacy, for sure. I have to wonder what the timeline is on this. Are they? They want to put the shovel in the ground as quickly as possible. Have they even indicated?
They can't. Well, so here's the thing. In order to do any of the substantive development, they need lots and lots more permits. And they need the water. And they don't have any water right now. This first water right that they've applied for is 1,900 acre feet. It is not enough, but if they got that, then they could start. But they don't have that. And it's unclear what, and actually, state water law says that they shouldn't get it because this is not a beneficial use. And so, we're making the legal argument that they are not entitled to use this water. So anyway, but that's the first kind of linchpin. So what they're saying now, well, we're going to start construction right away. So what they could do is level things, like they can go in and move earth around, but it's what they can do and do surveying and things like that. It's fairly minimal. But again, that this is their whole argument is going to be, here we go, it's happening. Step up,
What do they need the water for? For cooling? And does it become contaminated?
Yes. So they're saying, okay, so the issue is that, and I am not an expert in gas power plants, but I've been talking to lots of experts, and they need water to run. And yes, it's for cooling and running the machinery. And data centers also need water. And so now the data center proponents are coming back and saying, we don't, we're going to use closed loop systems and very little water will be used. And so it's kind of this, and then we're like, well, so explain more about how that works and what is that technology? And the experts are saying that technology doesn't exist, that water will be used, and that the water that will be used will be taken from the Great Salt Lake aquifer. And it won't be an insubstantial amount. I mean, they're seeking like 13,000 acre feet, which is a lot of water. right now, that's how much they're seeking. So none of this has been explained. It's a lot of these guys waltzing in and saying, trust us, and we have no reason to trust them, because in the same breath that they're saying that, they're also saying you people are stupid and you don't speak, like you're being bussed in or whatever. He accused us of that. It's like
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, and we're like, well, hey, we're in a crisis. Our elected officials have been telling us, and we can see with our own eyes, that we're in a crisis. And it's serious business for us. It's life and death, literally. And you're coming in here saying, oh, just give us the most tax breaks you've ever given anyone before and trust us. And if you dare to question us, we'll insult you. This is literally what we're dealing with.
Wow. So what would your...
And you could go online and find the insults. Like they just did it again yesterday.
Yeah, I did see a clip with Kevin O'Leary alleging that the protesters had been bussed in and that it was fake.
No, we were all Utahns, all walks of life, all ages, farmers, ranchers, people from up and down the Wasatch Front, community members, kids worried about the future. It was totally Utahns. Although I will say there might have been a few Idahoans there, because Idaho's right on the border, and those people are concerned about their water too. So local people. He wasn't there. Mr. O'Leary was not there.
How many other business people or companies are involved in this? Is it a consortium of some kind?
No. Well, we don't know. Again, that's all. We have no idea. The public-facing piece of this is Kevin O'Leary and whatever his development company is called. And then we assume that they're going out and getting contracts on land from ranchers. And there's one big, there are a couple big ranching operations that are, signed up for the largest, for big chunks. But also our Tribune reporters just did a story on this where, it's multiple property owners also.
So what are your next steps?
Well, I'm going to talk to some lawyers, and just what time is it? In a few minutes. Our next steps are that we're going to continue to organize. It's really outrageous that our governor, who says that he, of course, we're going to save the lake, is supporting this project that takes us in completely the opposite direction. So I think people are looking at him and going to be asking him questions about why there's this enormous contradiction in his policy positions with regard to the lake. Now, what he'll claim is, they're not going to use any water. But again, there's no proof of that at all. In fact, all the evidence suggests to the contrary, they're going to use a lot of water. But even beyond the water, there are the air quality, all the layers of issues. So we need that to happen. We also will pursue every legal lever that's available. There is lots of permitting that's associated with this. People are talking about whether they, I wouldn't be involved in this, but other people are talking about a ballot referendum. I'm not sure if this would be allowed under Utah law, but that's how angry people are. And again, I don't know if I said this earlier, it is bipartisan. I maybe didn't. It's like there are people who are very, very conservative Republicans who are concerned about this, and a lot from the perspective of government accountability and the use of tax dollars to incentivize private industry. and the air quality and water issues. Like the one thing that I see a lot is that regardless of one's political affiliation, everyone wants clean water and clean air, you know? So that's coming to bear in the situation where you have, you know, we're a majority Republican state. You have Republican party activists saying, wait a second, this is not right.
So as you know, Kevin O'Leary is working on another data center in Alberta, Canada. What would be your message to the people in that community?
Well, I haven't fully researched I've just read a little bit about what's happening there, but you know, if they're being subjected to the same treatment that we're experiencing, we would urge them to carry on in their opposition. You know, we cannot let speculative development create enormous public harm, both in terms of taxpayer dollars forked out, and I'm sure there are similar kinds of things that, you know, he's trying to extract from the local Canadian government in Alberta, but also the environmental harms. And this really, you know, as we are racked with the consequences of the climate emergency we're in, projects like this should not be happening, really. So, and one other thing to add is none of this is like, for many of us, this isn't about whether AI is good or bad or data centers are good or bad. A lot of it's about, okay, where are we putting these? And then the other piece of it is, how many of these do we need? What is the plan? And we're not seeing any plan. What we're seeing is speculators coming in like it's, you know, the 2026 gold rush, and this is their way to get rich quick with a lot of government assistance.
Yeah, well, I know that you have a meeting with your lawyers coming up, so
right now.
I won't keep you. I will send you an email so that we can stay connected, and I will check back in with you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Sure. Thanks for calling. Okay, take care.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye for now.
We are the Mavericks. Welcome to the Matrix, baby. Hope you like the view. We are the Mavericks. The world is watching. We are the Mavericks.
We always want to give equal time, or at least an opportunity to shed light on the other side of a story. So, with the development of this second location in mind up in Alberta, this is coming to Canada as well, another Kevin O'Leary AI data center. I went and I found a promotional video produced for Kevin O'Leary's social media channel on YouTube, and I skimmed it off, and here we are. So I'm going to run this because this will give you his perspective, his company's perspective on what these projects are all about.
I knew that this was a gem. I knew it was a unicorn, and it was a matter of time before someone moved ahead and really wanted it. Now, did I assume that it would be Kevin O'Leary? No. And has my world been turned upside down over the last 2.5 months? Yes.
The Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, joins me now. Madam Premier, you want to drill, baby, drill, and open the pipeline and send your oil to America, is that right?
It is. I've been wanting to double our production in Alberta since I got elected a couple of years ago. And America is our best friend and trading partner. We know that we benefit from more oil production. Americans benefit from more oil production because it's the basic feedstock that goes into gasoline, and it allows for Americans to be able to keep those prices low, and we hope that we can find a mutually satisfactory way of going forward so that we can increase our production and build more pipeline. We have 200 billion barrels of oil in reserve that's recoverable. We've got 200 trillion cubic feet of gas, and we also have pore space that is probably the best in the world, next only to Russia. Once again, I think we're a better trading partner and friend than Russia. And so we have a plan to take carbon dioxide, capture it and bury it, carbon capture, utilization and storage. We already have done this at scale. We've already safely sequestered 14 million tons of CO2. We intend to do more of that. And I think that the other part of it is that we want to have our lower emissions fuel being exported internationally so that we can reduce the global emissions picture. So we have, I think, a lot to offer the world where we can not only provide energy security and affordability, but we can also reduce emissions. We think we have it all.
I've been getting a ton of people sending me the link to that interview you did with Danielle Smith from Alberta. When she dropped that bomb that she has 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. That's all power. That's what that is, and that's what we need for Bitcoin mining. We need for AI data centers. I mean, she's coming out blasting there, Stuart. That was pretty interesting.
When you start talking about, like, what is 7 gigawatts? What is 7.5 gigawatts? So at full build out, you're talking about a BCF of natural gas. So you're talking about 10% of all the natural gas supply in Alberta. So you need to have that ability to get an abundant supply of natural gas. I also realized over years through the heartland and seeing, okay, well, we're on methanol, and wait, now we're on ethanol, and now we're on hydrogen. The things change really quickly, and they're dictated by larger presence than just Canada. You're talking about supply and demand on the world market. So when you start talking about opportunities, you only really have like 2 years to capitalize on that. So, like, once again, it was really, really luck that we've advanced it so far to the point of I'm hitting this is ready. And then we go and we meet, Kevin O'Leary and his group. And then they start introducing this, which as I dove further and further in, like, this is the only place on Earth that can do something this scale. There is no other place on Earth. So when you get to that understanding, you're like, okay, well, let's do this.
The real opportunity in AI is not just in the software. Here in the US, we have a huge problem. In order to just meet the demands of the 7 largest hyperscalers, the Teslas and the Googles and the Microsoft and the Amazons, they have demand for 30 gigawatts of data centers, 30. And we used to build them at 50 megawatts. So that's a fraction of the size. A data center today needs to be 5.9, which means it has to be up 99.999% of the time. We can't get the power. I don't care what state you go to. You go to the power authority there and say, I just want 100 megawatts. Can't do it. We have no power in America right now.
Right now, we're on a conditional master water license for 20 million cubes of water, and that equates to 0.2% of the flowing array of the Smoky. We've advanced the full design of the outtake over the last 4 years. We've advanced where the storage is going to go and located on the gig so that during those low periods of the Smoky, we've already pulled that water and we're already storing it. That is a substantial cost. As it started developing and as I honed in on the area, all these advantages just started coming to the forefront. The gig is 250 meters away from the TC mainline. Well, what did I do? I realized that Alberta's industrial heartland or other areas is about feedstock. So the first thing I did is I acquired a corridor, and that corridor is 150 meters wide, and it goes directly from the gig right into the TC mainline. over 200 easements and dispositions we registered. It's done now. So then when that company comes in, they have a dedicated corridor. But better than that, you have CNRL there, you have ARC there, so you have the ability to do off agreements with these companies on direct supply. You have midstream companies that are all throughout that area because that's where all your natural gas is produced, and there is real redundancy. Like these pads are connected, and it's already built in there. So as all of these things started to advance, there's a combination, and technologies advance really fast on the cooling. Whether they can be using glycol or even geothermal, they're bringing in now opportunities on the cooling. The water, the majority, like the large majority, is for the electrical production, and that electrical production is all off the grid, right? So we're not talking about putting it onto a maxed out ATCO current system here. So that water will produce that, and then they will look at a combination of various things. The fact that, you know, for instance, it's minus 25 this morning when I came here, that is wonderful for these data centers. And 7 months of the year, it's kind of below that threshold. So that was another main competitive advantage.
I would have thought that the only way to supply massive amounts of power to these massive data centers on a short-term basis is to go nuclear. That's the way to do it, isn't it? Ideally.
Yes, but you said short term. Westinghouse is the most advanced on the small nuclear solutions, 12 to 15 years. But here's the problem, Stuart. Pricing right now at 58 to 61 billion per gigawatt. Now, the way to think about a gigawatt is you can light up 1 million homes with that, but that's now what the smallest data center requirements are. So what Smith has, Premier Smith, is she's got 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. We can put turbines there and convert it on a clean basis into electricity. And that's what's going to be the interim solution over the next 20 years. And so we have other opportunities as well with this nat gas. One would be in West Virginia and the other in North Dakota. But I need permits.
Yep.
So when I heard Trump talking about $1 billion, yeah, I'll bring $1 billion to both those states. Give me the permits. You know, policy changes economic behavior. You don't have to get into politics. You don't make any money in politics. You make money in policy. This is the kind of thing that's going to bring capital back to the United States. They figured that up in Canada. They got that They got that done pretty quickly. Now the same thing's going to happen. And I like this whole Danielle Smith thing because she's going to be part of this whole pipeline initiative, getting that thing fired up again. So everything's coming together, Stuart, on policy and capital, and I love to see this. But this is exactly what we need. You don't have to be, you can still hate Trump, but you got to love his policies because that's what's going to bring jobs to these states.
You got that right. I think the data center explosion is one of the most important stories and underreported stories in America today. That's my opinion.
There has been so many moments that I look back and just go, wow, we lucked out. Or man, I don't know how we did it, but we did it right. And one of those was 3 years ago. Myself having multiple conversations with two champions out of Grand Prairie. You know, they started Canadian fiber optics, and they were always believers in this development. And sitting down with them, they convinced me why I needed to have a dedicated optics line. So there is an installed dedicated optics line, the Canadian Fiber put, and dedicated for the gig. It's hard, and it's 36 inches below, and it can handle all that data. So from the source.
I had to search for where can I get the power? Where can I get 7 gigawatts of power? I found it in northern Alberta. The province is being run by a Maverick woman who's very friendly with Burgum, very friendly with Kevin Stitt in Oklahoma, where Cushing is, very friendly with the Trump administration because she's the top dog in getting the pipeline lit up again with Trump if he wants to do that. And she has provided a permit for me for thousands of acres, but 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. This is going to be the most low-cost energy in America. And look, it's a huge project. I got to raise $70 billion. But I'm moving all over the world doing it with her, and I've been flying to every sovereign wealth fund that'll take the meeting, and we're off to the races.
We just didn't get lucky This has been over 10 years of an ASP, of consultations, of design, 5 years on water, $5.6 million on our road that we've already built, $50 million to the province of Alberta for the upgrade of Highway 40. So we chose, to try and change the path for the region, but with it comes a cost. And we also understood, though, that we had a clear competitive advantage over others, and that is that natural gas is sitting right there, and that water has the flows and the rates to support it.
We're going to be ahead of AI. We're going to be way ahead of AI, and we've got to produce tremendous amounts of electricity. You know that. It's unbelievable when you think that we need more than twice what we already have. If you think that's pretty for a specific industry, but we'll be able to do it.
The problem is a gigawatt of power, which is what the hyperscalers want, the Teslas, the Googles, the Amazons, the Microsofts. That's 1 million homes worth of light a night. So we can't put that on the grid in America anymore. Danielle Smith, who is probably the energy woman on earth right now, is the lowest cost energy in oil. Trump wants to light up XL pipeline again. She's the queen bee on that one. And she's got the most low cost energy in America just north of the border. So listen, I want to build data centers in West Virginia and North Dakota, but right now, she's my special friend. I'm going to find $70 billion, and I think Trump's going to like my project.
And Kevin has a world-class team behind him. So he's out there, this is not just a spur-of-the-moment thought. He's got the best of the best working on this.
Are you starting to figure it out? Mar-a-Lago. Separatism. Elon Musk. Neuralink. Bitcoin mining. Energy. Massive amounts of energy. And water. Trump. 51st state. Money. This is my home. Canada. Who wants to help me defend it? I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. On the flip side.
Didn't pick this fight, but here it came. Now I wanna play in a trader's game. They sell us out for a tax cut deal. Shake his hand while they rob and steal. They call us blind, they call us weak, but they're the ones on their knees to the thief. Wave our flag while they burn it down, marching to the sound of a tyrant's cry. Patriots, they're bought and sold. Trade our land for American gold. Singing his tune, dancing his way, but they'll cry for Canada when it's too late. Yeah. Trump traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. They talk real tough, but they bow real low, licking his boots while they put on a show. They chant his name, raise their fists up high while the real ones fight to keep us alive. They don't fight fair, they twist the truth, say they're the future, but they kill the roots. They laugh now, but watch them run when the north wind howls and justice comes. Traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. One day soon, the tide will turn, and traitors pay when the fires burn. No statues raised, no banners flown, just names in dust where the traitors roam. Traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Trump traitors! Shame.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.